You were worried about it being like, oh, we gotta get more stuff in here, he says.
What have I done? What
were you saying?
Now I've got the opposite problem. I gotta figure out how to trim this beast down. What kind of monster have we built?
I'm pretty sure I got rambly at some point.
I mean, sure, yeah, I can trim out 10 minutes. That doesn't solve it. That doesn't solve the problem. We have an abundance of content.
It's only 3 hours worth to choose from.
Well, luckily for us, I'm pretty sure we squandered about 45, 50 minutes at the beginning.
I think we did.
And
we're still going to be at the same usual spot. And you were like, we're just not going to have enough. We had plenty.
I'm just going to shut up.
You're never going to say that again, are you? Coming up on this episode of Linux User Space, we look to the past, we look to the present, and we look to the future. Hello, and welcome to Linux User Space. I'm Dan.
And I'm Lioh.
So this is the season finale for our podcast.
It's the finale. You've been with us for 20 episodes this season.
This is number 20, yeah.
And then we're going to take a break.
We're going to take a little break. But the Discord, Matrix, Telegram, live streams, we're going to keep those going. We just kind of talk about some current topics and, well, sometimes we get really off the rails and talk about things
movies.
That aren't even technology or computers or any of that stuff, which is fun.
Just nerdy topics that we all meander into. If you are interested in that kind of thing on Tuesday nights at 6 p.m. U.S. Central Time, come on in, join us in the Discord, or you can just watch on Twitch. Well, we always post links all over the place for you to get access to it, so you don't need to go dig them up now. So yeah, the party don't stop. It's just the podcasts while we, resituate things and transition to season 3. Over the next couple of months, my plan is to just like all of the things that everybody's saying. That's what the shows will be. The first couple of shows will be built out of. So,
yeah.
Keep it coming. Keep talking. We love it. It's my favorite part of all of this is the feedback. I think that's one thing that I've realized is my favorite part of doing all of this is the community feedback that I get to read. I mean, I digest that a little bit, and whether it's in the chats or on the show, expanding on that, it's become pretty quickly my favorite thing to do. So send it.
Yeah.
Wherever it is that you are and you're connected to us, send it.
Yeah, I agree. I think some of my favorite episodes this season have been the ones that were probably a little heavier in the feedback, where we got to answer and go through a lot of those things. And those were the most fun for me, researching those topics and helping people out and listening to the feedback. Even the feedback we got from the various distros, it's nice to see the maintainers and developers send us some information above and beyond what we already knew. And some of them say, like, holy cow, I'd forgotten about that thing or stuff like that. So that's pretty great, too.
That happened with MX. And, that's the kind of feeling that... success, I guess that might be a little bit of what success feels like, because you're bringing back old nostalgia. It like Slackware brought back old nostalgia for me, yet we had so many comments talking about how, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh yeah, I did that. And MX Linux was the same way, where wow, that was a long time ago, but I remember that. And so that's what success smells like in a podcast like this, where we really deep dive into the history, where you get people that were involved back in the day saying, Oh yeah, oh yeah, I remember that. So yeah, that feels real good.
Yeah, and then we even had some great feedback from like Nix. I remember when we did that episode.
So much
yeah, that was just holy cow. That was great stuff, and we got to relay it to you.
Yeah, we realized pretty quickly that we thought Nix was complex, but there were entire layers of complexity of Nix that we didn't even scratch on.
Yep.
I learned a lot. Nix, I learned a lot.
We've really had some great adventures with the distributions that we covered. We did some really hard ones this year. This season.
Yeah.
And the listeners, they really threw down the gauntlet, and I think we accepted it and ran with it. So some of my personal favorites, I'll throw them out here, and you can throw out yours too if you want, Lioh.
Oh yeah.
So personal favorites for me were Void, Arch, and Slackware. Those were my favorite distributions, more for the experience, I think, that I had. Each one of them was a great experience. They all turned out to be very usable systems for me. I had no problem, managing them after I got them set up and getting them installed. Yeah. I mean, they all have different layers of complexity there, but I think because they are so varied, so different, and going through each one of them and learning about all of their differences, that was really great for me. Oftentimes people will say, Linux is Linux, right? It's all the same. You use the kernel. But no, it's not. There are so many things that you can do to make it different. And then on top of that, there's so many things you can take that and make it your own as well. And all three of those systems allow you to make it your own. I find that to be really rewarding.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's extremely important in a lot of this. And I think that's what defines Linux for a lot of people, especially the more vocal FOSS types. It's the ability to make it your own. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't really say it any better than that. As far as what my favorite distros are, I don't know. That's a really hard one. I didn't dislike any.
Oh yeah, I didn't either.
Each of the distros that we talked about this season, I liked them for very different reasons.
Yeah.
But okay, so you did a top 3 in no particular order.
Nope. Definitely not.
So to refresh your memory, this season, what did we do? We did Chaos in episode 3.
Yep.
We did or KOS. That's right.
KOS.
KOS. Yeah. We did Arch Linux in episode 5. We did Elementary OS in episode 7, which was like difficulty whiplash, right?
Oh yeah,
we go from cobbling it all together in Arch to Elementary, where it's just put together, man. Don't worry about it. Here it is.
Just here you go. Yep.
And then we did Garuda in episode 9.
Mm-hmm.
And Zorin in episode 11. So what's really funny about that is we went Arch Debian with that, and it really was. Not that Garuda is hard, but dealing with Pac-Man and understanding what the chaotic AUR and all the pieces that fit together to make Garuda. There's more understanding that you need to have there.
Yeah, there's a lot to that.
Yeah, and it was almost another complexity whiplash going back to Zorin and kind of taking it easy. By the way, if you didn't notice, we kind of did it on purpose.
Yeah, we did.
And then in episode 13, we did Void. In episode 15, we did Nix OS, and we didn't do ourselves any favor on that one. Those were two difficult ones back to back. We gave ourselves a bit of a rest on
with MX. Yeah.
And then we finished out with Slackware, which, in my opinion, Slackware is the hardest distro that we did the entire season. Arch is number 2, easily. Number 2 because of the front end, you have to build it. And then Nix was number 3.
Okay. Yeah. I will buy that. I would throw Void in there too a little bit. That's probably a little.
Because you have to pick up and run it. And,
that's different, and you it's like Arch in the sense that you have to install everything kind of and build it up, unless you're a fan of XFCE and that's your thing. So it's not bad. It's actually a good implementation of it. So it wouldn't be terrible. But yeah, like you got to build all those up. So they're a little trickier.
Yeah, and you said XFCE, Dan. You know me. I'm not a huge fan of XFCE, but and not because it's not performant or functional or anything like that. It's just not my cup of tea. So
yep.
As far as this is not going to be my favorite distros. This is not going to be a top 3 favorite distro because it's going to be a top 3 distros I had the most fun with.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
Number 1 is Slackware.
Yep.
I had the most fun with it because it was a lot of things to me. It was nostalgic because it was, as I mentioned in the episode, it was my first big boy distro. I had to have help putting it together, someone that knew how to put it together. But this time I have a lot of Linux knowledge, but not Slackware specific knowledge. So
right.
It was challenging, and that's why I liked it so much. The typical ways that you do things. Every other distro besides Slackware this season has a way to resolve dependencies. Slackware did not.
Yeah, that's why it's the hardest, I feel like.
Yeah, you had to be much more thoughtful in what you did every step of the way as far as administration goes. Launching apps, doing the normal stuff, you don't have to think about it. But, when you're updating, when you're doing things, when you're changing system stuff, you have to be a little more thoughtful in Slackware. So it makes you think.
Yeah, there are some third-party things to help you resolve some of that, and that's an option, I suppose, if that's the way you want to go.
We got feedback to that effect too.
I know, but if you just want to go with the system as they give it to you, which is the intention, then you need to solve those things on your own. That's your problem to solve.
And that was kind of my focus with it. I did want to use the tooling that was given to me. I didn't really have much of a choice, right? Because Slack builds wasn't available to us until seriously the day.
Oh yeah. No, I know.
I sat down to record or to produce the show, to actually edit everything. Then Slack builds for 15 was out.
Right.
Man.
I did cheat, and I went to the current branch, which is essentially the same thing because it was fairly frozen at that point, right? But I did cheat. I wanted to get it in there. I wanted to try it. I wanted to have the experience because I felt like that was part of it.
That's not cheating, Dan. That is the Linux way. Making it do what you want it to do, regardless of the circumstances of how it's put together.
I know. I use cheating in air quotes.
Yep. Slackware's number 1. Number 2 is Arch. And again, not because it's my favorite, but just simply because it was the second most challenging distro to get running out of the box. And that was just simply because you have to cobble it together unless you're using the install script, which makes things a little bit easier. But, I mean, I wanted to dive in. The script was available to me day 1, but I didn't want to do it. I did not want to go that route with it. I wanted to put it together for myself to see what people were talking about when they say Arch is better because you make every decision all along the way. And it has its advantages, 100%. But you have to be okay with making those decisions. And if you decide 3 months into it that you don't want to do that way anymore, you want to rip out systemd or something like that, it's on you. You can always reinstall, but I mean, I feel like the Arch way would more be, we'll rip out systemd and replace it with something and then rip out systemd and then make sure everything is going to work before you reboot. Otherwise, well, you might be cherooting in to fix things.
Which is always an option, I suppose.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, sure, of course. But Arch Linux has a higher difficulty ceiling, and that I think that's what does it for me. Just the difficulty of it is really what makes it interesting to me, and why it's my number 2.
I will say, if you install Arch the Arch way, that is one of the things that brings the intensity up a little bit, right? So Slackware, you can, I feel like you boot into something at least, and it has it's a curses installer, but it's sort of step by step, and it kind of walks you through.
They have not gone away from their DOS roots very far.
No,
because
they haven't.
What is the command to invoke the installer? It's like setup, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Every single DOS-based installer that I ever ran back in the day was D:, to go to your CD drive, and setup.exe, or A: to go to your A drive and setup.exe.
Yep. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, just a huge hit of nostalgia right to the gut.
And as difficult as that is, obviously you have to do some formatting and have all that stuff prepped or whatever, but it steps you through. Whereas the Arch install process, you're looking at a command prompt after every command you type. It's not asking you for a question, to enter something in. You have to be following along in a page that's written somewhere else.
Exactly. So, you're putting in your own EFI bootloader, man. Good luck with that.
Right. And so there is the Arch installer now, which is a script basically that does some of those things in an automated fashion after you load up a config file to make it do stuff. So, I mean, I guess that's a thing, but I think because the installer, the install piece of that is on you. It's all on you. There is no walkthrough. That's what makes that harder.
Yeah, it definitely does. That's why I like it. That's why it's my number 2. It's difficult. Arch number 2, easily in that slot for that reason. But once you get booted in, Pac-Man does a lot for you.
Oh, for sure. There are a lot of great tools. And like if you've been through the Arch install process, it's not that complicated and it does make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
The way you do it. It's just, it isn't doing it for you.
Right. Exactly. So Arch number 2, for sure. Number 3 has got to be NixOS.
Okay. You did seem to take a hold of that.
I liked it for a lot of reasons. I liked it because I could just spin it back up one day, feed it my config file, and just be done.
Man,
all my stuff is there. I
gotta
move my documents and stuff back over. No big deal. But the fact that I could have a working system in NixOS after the first time faster than any other distro out there, no matter what scripts I put together, Nix takes the cake there. So and again, we were talking about at the top of the show that's not even the surface of really what Nix provides to you. It's just my favorite thing about it. So Nix was probably about as difficult as Slackware to install, which is to say it's not. Yep. If you're okay with the command line, if you're okay with formatting your own disks, NixOS and Slackware are pretty much on par as far as installation goes. Both of those are easier than Arch, but really where NixOS becomes difficult is the way in which you must configure the system. Installing applications, you can use the nixenv commands, but if you want that thing, whatever it is that you're installing, to be available to multiple users, you want to do it at a system level, and that then brings in the Nix configuration that you have to go and make sure that everything is exactly perfect. And same with like configuration changes. So like to do my Pulse audio changes that I need to do for this particular audio interface on every single distro, I couldn't just go into the daemon.conf file in Pulse to configure that. Well, I guess I could, and it would work for now. But after a reboot, it'd go back. So you had to, and this is I think where it was a little more difficult because the documentation was there. It answered the question, but I feel like it could use a little bit of explanation around the things to make it a little easier to digest. But overall, I got the job done. It's no big deal, not a problem. So that is really what makes it difficult, having to go in and configure it in a way that you've probably never done before on another distro in your life. NixOS and distributions like Fedora Silverblue, they just have a whole different take on how you interact with the system and this whole atomicness of how the system exists is just different and complex enough that that's number 3. Slackware, Arch, Nix. I grade them that way because that's where I have my fun when it's hard.
I think we're pretty much on par with each other there because I picked Slackware, Arch, and Void. Void is probably another one that's ranks right up there as one of the harder ones too. So.
I would say Void would hit 4. If I had to pick 4, Void would be number 4 because you have to learn a new init system.
Yeah, totally. And so
you got to go link dbus. Like, come on.
Yeah, I know.
Who's not linking dbus? Get out of here.
Well, I don't know, but so they were good experiences, and that's why I chose those. I really, the other distributions were fantastic for me, and I feel like I almost feel like I'm doing them a little bit of a disservice. I don't mean to, because, distributions like MX and, KOS. Well, KOS doesn't really get enough notoriety. I don't feel like. I think that's undersung distribution for how good it is.
I feel like a lot of times, as far as Plasma is concerned.
Yeah, if you want Plasma, boy, is that good.
Yeah, it's as good as Neon, KDE Neon.
Yep.
And I mean, when you want the latest greatest Plasma, the other things, and there are certainly I guess concessions you have to make when you're using KDE Neon, because it's on a Ubuntu LTS base.
Yeah, it's an older base, yeah.
Right. So, you get 12 months into that, 16, 18 months into that, you're going to have to make some tough choices.
Right.
Chaos kind of sidesteps some of that, but
it does.
You have other trade-offs with Chaos. There isn't a perfect KDE Plasma latest and greatest distro that I know of just yet. Maybe there is. I don't know.
Well, the OpenSUSE Tumbleweed.
Also a good one. True.
Like, if you wanted to pick latest and greatest Plasma, that might be the way to go, right?
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I guess that's my recommendation. I think rolling, going to get the latest stuff. That might be not a bad plan. But I really did like KOS. I thought that was great. The forums were great. And
the KCP was great.
The KCP was great. And if you're staying pretty much within that Qt application sort of realm space, and you like the KDE stuff, then that's not bad. I think that's a good way to go. And but like I said, MX was another one that I really, really did like. I think the community there is just, outweighs everything. The great little tools that they bundle in are fantastic. And, who doesn't want to watch Dolphin and Oracle on YouTube?
True. Every question I had was answered in one of those videos about MX. So, if you care about MX and you want to know what's coming or what's new, that's where you go. That's the thing. There's no single forum post or anything that does it justice. Dolphin Oracle. Yeah, he takes the cake.
Yeah. And to round it out a little bit, I'll say, like, Elementary, I love what they're doing. I love what they're doing with the app stuff. I know there's not much there yet, and that's frustrating for some folks.
But it's bigger than when we did it.
It absolutely is.
That's an interesting thing, is that it keeps growing.
It might be double in the size now that it was when we looked at it. And so that's not a lot of time, and that's a lot of progress, I feel like. So that's something to watch out for.
Yep.
I like what they stand for. I think that's good. Glad they're taking that stance, honestly.
Yep. And the 0.1 release of Zorin OS came out just a few days ago, actually. So tons of progress there, too.
Yeah. And I guess we did call that a little boring, but
boring in the best way, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's boring in the same way that Linux Mint is boring. And
for sure.
And I'm still recording this show on Linux Mint, so it's not like boring is a bad thing. Boring is great.
That's a good place to be.
When you need a machine to just do what you want it to do, every single day you get on it. And updates, you don't have to think about them so much. Just press the button. It's probably going to be just fine. 99% of the time it is. And, I feel like it's on par with, I was going to say something like Windows, but no, that's not true.
No, it's way better than Windows.
It's way better. It's way better. It's way better.
Well, here's another boring aspect of it is doing security updates in the background. You don't even know about it.
Yeah.
So, like, some of the other distros don't do that, but, like, we do that because we pay attention. But if you were to hand something to someone, you could just say, "Here, take off with that," and then all the security updates are done.
Yeah,
and every time they reboot, there they are.
That decision. Yeah.
So at least there's that. So that's good stuff.
Yeah,
I really did enjoy all of them. I really did.
Not to go stray too far away from what a topic episode really is about.
Yeah.
We have some topics, right?
We do have a few topics.
Just a couple. And these are more things that are going to happen while we are on break, things that we're watching, and especially for me.
Shortly after we go on break.
Yeah, actually, yes.
At least this first one.
Y'all will get this episode toward the end of the month, and then mid-month in April, all this stuff happens.
Well, first up, we've got the Fedora 36 release is imminent. So keep your eyes open. It's scheduled for April 19th. Sometimes, though, they shuffle those around. Fedora is released when it's ready. That's their, but they really do target like that day, and they usually get pretty close within a few days of that time.
Mm-hmm.
So start watching, around the April 19th time frame, and that's when they're looking at it.
Yeah, I remember pretty much every article I read on the Fedora thing was that, like, if it wasn't the 19th, it's gonna be, I think it was like the 25th or 20th, so like an extra week. So
probably a week, yeah.
Yeah, there's a contingency plan there just in case. But
Yep. It all
little.
depends on the blocker bugs, and I might be able to come up with a link for that in the show notes.
Surely.
Yeah, I'll give it a whirl, and it all depends on where they are at the time, and if things are all clear, then they'll release. If not, then they'll hold off.
Sounds good. That'll work. But GNOME 42, that's the thing.
That's coming. That's going to be in the release. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be common to the thing that we're talking about. So GNOME 42.
It is.
But all of GNOME 42, you'll see what I mean in a minute, but all of
Yep.
GNOME 42, all of the apps, all of the libadwaita, all of the GNOME 42, all of the Wayland, all of that
Yep, every
is
bit
coming.
of it.
And something specifically that I care about is kernel 5.17, because I'll talk about it a little bit more. But
That's shiny.
Yeah, the framework laptop that I'm messing with needs the newest of the new kernels. I think 5.15 was probably the first kernel that you needed and that had pretty much everything ready to go. But the later kernels are always better in this case. So 5.17 is going to help out with some of the things that I need.
That makes sense.
So I'm excited about this one. Whichever one comes out first. I'm getting ahead of myself, but that's what's going to see my laptop.
Just to recap, GNOME 42, all the GNOME 42 apps in addition to that.
Mm-hmm. So why are we talking about the apps on this one?
We are talking about that because Ubuntu 22.04 is scheduled to be released in April 21st, which is like a few days after the scheduled release of Fedora.
It's like a race. I'm actually pretty curious. It seems like Fedora should release earlier than Ubuntu, but as you mentioned, the blocking bugs might push it back a little bit and give Ubuntu the edge on the suck all the air out of the room because Big Boy just had a release.
So related to that, though, beta testing week is set to begin the 31st of March.
Which will be a couple days after you hear this, right? When you can hear this? You're going to hear this on the 28th. And so 31st is Thursday. Like
a couple of days that week, later this week that you're hearing my voice. If you can help test that out, that'd be like fantastic way to give back and make sure that the release happens without as many flaws, hopefully, so that developers can get in there and hint, wink, wink.
Yeah, the Ubuntu proper release is on the hook for 10 years on this release. So I mean, it's got to be right.
Yeah, right. And all the flavors, they're 3 years. So that's a long time too. So
yeah. Oh, of course.
For some of those things. So please jump in there, help out, test if you can. For more information on that, look to the Ubuntu and Flavors social media spaces for announcements on when and where to go for more information. You'll see it posted there. I think they're targeting Discord maybe this go around for doing some testing.
Really?
Which that has not been done to my knowledge.
Oh.
There is also a Telegram IRC channel for that.
Okay, that sounds
testing
more
stuff.
IRC and maybe even Matrix. I'm not saying there is.
Matrix, IRC, Telegram. You can do all three of those.
The more FOSS-focused ones is what I would expect to hear. So it was kind of shocking to hear the Discord thing.
Semi-unofficial, but I think they're going to try to do some more from that platform potentially.
Cool.
So
cool.
I think just to reach more eyes and ears.
Well, I think that's the right thing to do. If you're actually trying to get as many tests as you possibly can, is probably a good idea to say, let's reach as many testers as we possibly can.
Yeah, because more hardware that you test on definitely yields better results because everybody has different idiosyncrasies that you can't accommodate for. So, yeah, that's a good thing. I mean, you can just get in there. All right, so I'll give you a URL here, iso.qa.ubuntu.com. That'll take you to the testing page where you can fill out the testing stuff and
nice.
and grab the ISOs on a daily if you want. So,
yeah.
Jump in there, do some tests, run some things, and report your bugs. There's your PSA for the moment.
Yeah, there you go. Right? Yeah, do the thing. Just do the thing. Just do it.
The thing. So that's scheduled to come out April 21st. So that's coming with GNOME 42, just like Fedora. But what not like Fedora,
right,
is there's going to be a lot of GNOME 41 applications in there. So some of the GNOME 42 applications are in the Ubuntu archive, and you are able to install them, but they will not be included in the default install. Just so you know. So like I did some testing on the new terminal, GNOME console, and that is already in there. So you're able to install it. It's just, it won't become, it's not default. So you can easily switch to it, but it won't be the thing that you get. You'll get GNOME terminal on the ISO. So
gotcha. That's cool.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a happy medium for where they want to be. I'm not sure. I know there's still some more features I think that are coming in some of those applications that they're introducing. So that may be why they don't want to put those right out there for the LTS because not everything's baked in there yet.
Right.
But they did include them in the archive so you can install it. So if you want to get some testing in on that before the next releases, you can do that too. So
good call.
I don't think it's a terrible thing. I think having it available, but not by default, isn't a bad place.
Right. Better safe than sorry in a situation like that, I'd guess.
Yeah. So the other thing is light and dark mode switching is vastly improved.
Yeah. So Fedora and GNOME 42 have that already baked in.
They do. Ubuntu
also gets to take advantage of that, but Ubuntu has added a little bit of flavor on top of that that Fedora's not going to get.
Yeah. The accent colors.
Yeah.
Oh my, are they nice. I tested that out and they look good. Yeah. I think it's a good touch.
Yeah, it is. I'm really looking forward to it because with the changes to GNOME and libadwaita and everything, there is a bit of a void on customization and things like that. And while the accent colors aren't a full fix for what the folks that are like, well, I want to be able to theme with this particular theme, it's not going to satisfy them.
No.
But it's going to give you enough customization that I think it might satisfy most people. That, I mean, they don't want to get down to like GTK4 theming and, the whole thing, but they want a little spice, a little bit of something.
I think this satisfies the casual user, right? Somebody that's not going to, they're going to go download a theme and then go put it in their .themes folder.
Right.
And then, that's sometimes, I get it. That's a little bit of work, and maybe you don't want to go through all that. When you can just tick a box or click a little color, that seems a whole lot easier to me, and you can get off to the races pretty quick that way.
And I didn't dig far down enough to find out, but I have a feeling that this accent color thing came from Elementary OS.
Oh, could be.
Because it displays on the screen the same way that it does in Elementary OS, and I know that the folks behind Elementary are very big on collaboration, and it would not surprise me in any way whatsoever if this was just Elementary's handiwork and Ubuntu's tweaks on top of it, adding it to Ubuntu itself.
Yeah, and there are other, obviously, distributions with different toolkits that do this very same thing in their own way as well. And so I feel
Zorin OS, yeah.
Yeah, no, Zorin has a nice touch, but Ubuntu Mate, like if you fire up Mate. Mate has a color scheme, if you will, that follows throughout as well. So,
yep.
And I think Budgie does too. So come to think of it. So, they all have their different spin on that sort of thing. So I think it's smart, I think, to have it right there in the settings where you don't have to hunt around for extensions or themes or any of that stuff. It's just baked right in.
Yep, definitely.
So the other thing that's bundled in here that is not in actual GNOME 42.
I know.
It's still baking in the oven, right? It's not cooked yet a little bit, is the triple buffering patch.
Yeah. Ubuntu does a lot of backporting, and this is another one of those instances where it's not just any old package. This is something that the GNOME team has been working on for quite a while, and basically, Michael Larrabell had a pretty decent quote about what it really actually does. To cut through all of the technical jargon and everything else, here's what Michael wrote. The patches, speaking of the triple buffering patch that we're talking about now, have successfully doubled the performance for Intel graphics and Raspberry Pi, while also improving the situation for other graphics hardware too. So this triple buffering patch allows, when these frames get stored up in the buffer and, in normal cases, you're just going to see stutter,
right?
That it allows the desktop to smooth out these transitions and just increase performance in general. And what have I been complaining about?
I was just going to say, I think I've heard someone complain about this sort of thing in the past
so many times. I mean, and I was joking about it in the live stream, but I mean, there was a good. It's a non-zero amount of incentive that made me go ahead and buy the framework laptop,
right?
Because GNOME ran, I won't say bad.
No, I think it's exactly what's described here, right?
Yeah, there was a little bit of stutter whenever things got real busy, and I didn't like that. And it was a 5th gen i5, so I get it. It's a little older on the chip, and the graphics stack is a little older as well. So, that was one of the deciding factors to go with this laptop. And wouldn't you know it, as soon as I buy a laptop,
it came out with a solution for you.
The triple buffering patch lands and would essentially alleviate the GNOME issues that I'd been having on the laptop. I'm not mad at all.
Don't be mad, because you're still going to get a better experience, whatever you yeah.
And that old laptop's not going anywhere either.
Right.
I'm going to certainly use it for our new distros and everything else, but I'm going to include the framework into it as well. So I'm so happy that this triple buffering patch is in the pipeline for GNOME 40, presumably 43. But
yeah, probably 43. I would think probably 43. If they thought it good enough to patch for 42, I would imagine it's good enough to actually get shipped with 43.
Yeah, exactly. So, but this is probably what's going to make me choose Ubuntu. More than time. It's probably going to make me choose Ubuntu on this laptop, because there's a good chance I'll be running GNOME at least a little on this laptop. So this is a welcome change. I'm happy that Ubuntu is backporting it to the GNOME 42 stack that they're going to be shipping. So, so great.
Yep.
I'm going to try it on the other laptop too and see if it does actually increase performance on that thing.
It's always good to see performance gains wherever you can get them.
Of course.
So, speaking of performance gains, this will have long-term kernel 5.15. So that should be pretty good on the framework as well, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe not as great as the 5.17, but should be pretty good.
But the thing about that is that while there are some additional fixes that 5.16 and 5.17 have added that the framework can take advantage of, the beautiful thing about this is that Ubuntu has taken it upon themselves, in conjunction with framework, to backport a lot of the fixes that are coming in those newer kernels to support the framework. They've already done a lot of the work to make 20.04. Yeah, the one that came out 2 years ago.
Right. That's 5.13 kernel with the HWE.
Yeah, so 2004 dot, and I hope I'm right on this one,
4.
dot 4. Yeah,
Yep.
the most recent one that came out fully supports the framework laptop. So you can go with an older Ubuntu release, which makes
Nice.
me feel really good about installing Ubuntu 2204 on the framework. I hope I'm going to have a really good experience right out of the box. But it sounds like I'm gonna. So yay! Hey, no matter which I choose, I think I'm going to have a great experience.
That's pretty neat. So yeah, 515 LTS kernel, and that'll make, kernel maintenance a lot easier by having an LTS kernel. You won't have to do nearly the backports and patching to go on there. So that'll be good.
That's a good one.
But speaking of aesthetics, we talked about this a little bit in the live stream as well. Maybe we didn't. Maybe it was in Telegram. I think that's where it was. Ubuntu has a new logo.
What's your take on this, Dan? What do you like it?
It's okay. I think it's a little strange. I don't know.
That's what you want to hear when you're announcing a new logo. That's exactly how you want to hear it.
It doesn't fit some of the form factors. I think I like the logo. I really do. I think it looks slick, and I've actually seen it in the Plymouth screen on boot up of Ubuntu.
Is it the whole rectangle banner in the boot?
It is.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, and so it looks nice, though. You should boot it up and take a look at it. I think it looks good.
Okay.
It fits there. Obviously, that logo is not going to fit everywhere for branding.
Right.
And so they have trimmed it down in some places to be just the square, if you will, like the lower, the circle of friends in a square, if you will. Or in a circle, depending on where it needs to go, I suppose.
I feel like the circle of friends. So speaking of that, right? Like, so the circle is now like in the line. So it makes a better circle, I think. And every time I look down, right? So I have different things that have the Ubuntu logo on it, right?
Right.
So
right.
When you see that, I see the little head thing, right?
Yeah.
That represents the head of one of the 3 people in the circle of friends.
Okay.
And every time I see it, you're looking down at 3 people in a circle holding hands, kind of, or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
The old logo always made me think every single person in the 3 are like flipping their head back real hard.
Yeah.
And just going like, ha ha, or something. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe they are. Maybe they're, free spirit and laughing away, right?
And the new logo, which probably is on the screen right now, at the very least seems like I'm looking down at the top of somebody's head. Okay. So I feel like it's a more natural progression of the logo. Yep. I can't say it's my favorite. My favorite was the multicolored one, the original.
That's way back, right? Yeah, fire up the Wayback Machine. Yeah. That one is cool. I do like that one a lot.
Yeah,
right.
That logo is probably my favorite, mostly because I ordered those discs. I got like 50.
Oh
once.
Yeah, I had a bunch of those too.
Dude, I was like dropping them everywhere. I took
we
them
were
to
handing
work.
them out at work. Yeah, no. So like I work at a college, and we were handing them out to the students like all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Always.
Yeah, so that was fun.
Oh yeah, I'm half in, half out on the new logo. It's different, and I think that's probably why I'm half out on it, because it's different and it's not the same as that logo that I got used to when I first got into Ubuntu and realizing how easy things could be in Linux in general. That's probably why I have the attachment to the old logo. But again, the critique on that is like, ha ha, throwing your head back real hard. Yeah. So the new one's good.
It is good. It's I gave it a little. I don't know. I guess I was a little harsh with it, I guess.
No, because any change, you got to internalize that, and because it's going to be in some ways your logo too, Dan, because of the team that you're on. So
yep,
you've got to be on board.
I do, and we're a little behind, obviously, in any artwork that we're doing. Because hey, if you're ever looking to contribute artwork, you could certainly join the Ubuntu team. Just a hint. But yeah, no, I think it'll catch on. I think it'll look good, and in the places that I've seen it, it really works really well. So there's that. It just obviously not going to work in every form factor. You're going to have to modify it just a little bit.
Yeah, my critique is they need a circle. They need like a circle one.
Right.
Because
there's a lot of things that are circle shaped, right?
Right.
And you want to get the same logo in it. You don't want the rectangle.
A circle. So
So that's doable. No, it's doable. I've seen it in a few places too. So they've been doing a lot of work at it, and I think it's coming together and looking good.
Yeah, definitely.
So the other thing to mention here is Wayland by default.
Yes. Oh, I'm excited about this. 3-finger swipes. Is amazing. That's all I'll say. That's all I need out of Wayland. I don't care about the other stuff. I just need 3-finger swipes. Give me that, and I'll be happy.
Well, that's fair.
I'll take
definitely good, and I think the video smoothness is kind of comes along with that too.
Mm-hmm.
So those are both really good things that Wayland is bringing. Plus the extra security. I know you're a security nut.
Yeah.
So nothing wrong with that. I mean, the Wayland protocols are intended to be more secure.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Wayland and Flatpak are coming together to give us a more Android-y experience of selective permissions everywhere.
Where you need it. Yeah.
Yes. So when that happens, when that all comes together and becomes like a full package, that's going to be the day. We joke about it all the time about Linux on the desktop, blah, 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 right? Like, we can say that all we want, but until we have a platform that behaves at least as good as Android, we're never going to be in a position to really push it out and get people to actually care.
Right.
But once those things come together and get, I mean, they're already pretty mature, but I feel like maybe a little longer, maybe 2023, I don't know. But those are, I think, the main technologies that once they come together, will really give us the edge and allow us to stand on the same footing as the other two big ones.
I feel like Wayland took an eternity to get to the usable point. And then in the last, but no, really, seriously, you hear me out.
I agree. I agree.
And then in the last couple of years, like, it's been usable. And so people have really been advancing it like at a exponential rate compared to the way it was in the beginning. That's great to see because like I alluded to before, one of the undersold things of Wayland is the security features that it brings. And I know that annoys some people when it comes time to, I can't get my screenshot. But you know what? That means somebody else can't scrape your machine too.
Exactly.
So, I mean, that's a benefit just as much as it is a hindrance.
I get, the person that is shaking their phone right now because they're listening to this podcast and is like, wow, I love Xorg. Xorg was not meant for that. I mean,
right.
Wayland is, and we got to get there. We got to get there, and once we get there,
we're this close. We're this close. Really, we're right there. I feel like it's down to the nitty gritty, little nitpicky bugs.
You're right. You're right. You're absolutely right, because I think in Fedora 36, even in the testing, pretty much all of that stuff works.
Yeah.
Like, you can do screenshots, and you can do OBS supports it now. And, we're at the point now where it's very serviceable, and you're right. You're down to the little bugs where you have very specific setups doing very specific things those are now the outliers. And once we fix those bugs and get that stuff all added into the actual Wayland stack itself, we're going to be in a very good position to have a full, secure system. Let me adjust my tinfoil hat a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's important. It's very important. And Wayland is important. And no matter how much you dislike it, I think that's the thing that's going to push Linux further.
Yep. Agreed. So yeah, I know these two distros really caught your eye, and you're looking forward to giving them a go on the framework. So that's exciting. I can't wait to hear how it works out for you.
I'm already putting together season 3 stuff. So, but this is it. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you might hear about one of these distros early on in season 3.
Might you hear something about that? Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe. Stay tuned. So this next one is a super scary topic, Lioh.
Ooh, boy.
We talk about security a lot, but this is not Linux related necessarily.
It'll get you on Linux.
Everybody. This is everybody impacted, not just Linux.
Yeah. So if you're one of the weirdos that is on a Windows box listening to a Linux show, this is going to affect you too. So you know, this is not just your Linux VM. This is
right. No, but I mean like Mac, your mobile device though too, which may be Linux as well, but it's going to affect everything. That included. So
everything.
What we're talking about is these nasty new little phishing techniques dubbed BitB, or browser in the browser.
Yeah.
So that's a hijack of an OAuth, which is an authentication window, by a reverse proxy.
Right. So so think about it like anytime you're logging into a service that relies on some other service. This happens a lot of times on your phone.
Yep.
When you go to a website and you log in, and it says, hey, do you want to log in with Apple services or Facebook services or Google services? Or I don't know, there's probably like 12 in the list now.
Yeah,
but
there's a
those,
bunch, right?
And you say,
well,
let me log in with my Google account. And this happens to us on our HedgeDoc instance, right? So when we get in and we start messing with our documents, we log in with our Google accounts to get into that. Yeah, we're 99% Google free, but not 100%.
We're still,
anyway.
I mean, I guess we could switch providers. But
yeah, but I don't want you to have to handle it, Dan. So let Google handle it. I don't particularly care on this particular thing because we publish this out publicly anyway. So I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, but the documents are not top secret.
Yeah. This OAuth is what we're talking about, right? So when you click, I'll log in with Google, basically what's happening is you're logging into Google, and Google is giving a login token to the website that you're logging into. So essentially, this is Google vouching for you, saying, this guy did properly log in as this account, and you can count on this person being who he says he is when he interacts on your website. And it's become very convenient to do this because almost everybody has either a Google or an Apple account. And because of that, it's easy to just say, oh, well, I'm already if you have an iPhone or something like that, I'm already logged into my Apple, whatever. Just click on Apple ID login, and then boom, 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 straight in. You're good to go. Same with your Android. Click on Google, boom, boom, boom. You're in.
You'll see it a lot, though. The other one you see is GitHub. GitHub does it a lot, too, for folks as well.
Oh, yeah, so. Microsoft.
Yeah, buddy.
So Mr. Docs has a really interesting video on what this browser in the browser, so BITB, which is, I think the name was chosen because of man in the middle.
Yep.
So this little browser that pops up whenever you do this, I want to log in with Google. A new little browser pops up. If you're already logged into Google, you can just proceed in. Otherwise, you got to log in to Google. But what happens is it's a clever trick using CSS and pulling assets from the real login site to populate the login. Right? I mean, how many times if you would just click on Google login and it says, oh, hey, you just need to provide your username and password, would it really give you any pause?
No, there's nothing weird about that at all.
Right. To have to type in your username and password to get into a Google, anything? Or to do this OAuth type login or any of that,
these things prompted everywhere.
Yeah, because every time I go into our HedgeDoc instance, it asks me because it's been like a week.
Or if you're on a different computer even, or whatever,
So it's not uncommon to see this particular login screen. So anyway, what happens on these websites is that you'll get this login screen and it will not be authentic. And it's very difficult, right? Like,
it's extremely hard because some of it is passed through to the legitimate page. So and in addition, when you look at the URL in the URL bar, That's legitimate as well,
Yeah.
probably.
But it's fake.
But like if you look at the source code on the page itself, that is not legitimate because like the text boxes, they are going to some other place that's reverse proxied. That's the scary part.
I think the people that are careful do a lot of the good stuff, right? Like,
yeah, you look at the URL. That's the thing. Like, oh, the little padlock is locked.
Of course,
so it's a secure page. The URL says it's facebook.com or github.com or whatever.
Yeah, it's not FACEB00K.com, right? Like, obviously.
It's spelled correctly. It's the place. The logos and stuff, they look like the other one that I had on my other computer just minutes ago. You know, all of those things are they're laid out right. They look right. They got the right logos. The boxes are in the same place. Like, it's really hard to tell.
Yeah. So go watch this video because I know if you're anything like me, you're sitting back in your chair and you're saying, nah, that's not going to get me. There's no way that'll get me. I pay too much attention when I log into things. I'm too clever to be gotten by the G00GLE.coms and all the other weird little misspelling domain squatter folks that pick up these domains to do that kind of shady stuff with. But this is clever. It's clever. It's more clever than I have seen before as far as phishing attacks go.
Absolutely.
So whatever you thought you could get clapped by, you're going to have to add something else to your repertoire. You're going to have to start looking at the very minute details of these websites. When you click on these OAuth type login stuff, you're going to have to pay more attention now because these, man, they're sneaky. It's so sneaky how good it look. And how much time do you really spend when you click on that, login with Google and it asks you your username and password? How much time do you really spend looking at, you might check the URL. How much time do you spend looking at the images, the color of the buttons, the size of things, the text?
The precise placement of it too, because like it could be still in the same general location, but just a little bit off. I saw one that was like Facebook, but like the logo was just a little further left. Than the legit one. So it was still the same logo. It was just moved over a little bit.
Exactly.
And so my goodness. Yeah, you got to watch that stuff.
These folks, man, they are fishing and they're fishing hard. And I think that this is going to, well, yes. And this is going to get some people that I think previously thought they'd never be got in a way like this. It's to the point now where you really got to pay attention. So adjust your tinfoil hats, folks. They're not after you. They're just after the low-hanging fruit. Even if you do. Dan, we were talking about it a second ago. Two-factor authentication.
That will help.
Is what's going to save you. If you make the mistake, and it's very easy to do, if you make the mistake of logging into one of these OAuth things and getting caught and your password is now compromised, your two-factor is what's going to save you. So
yeah, it's got a real good chance as long as you haven't entered your two-factor stuff into one of these as well. And so I guess that's where it makes this attack, in particular, a lot more dangerous, is you could be entering that in there someplace too.
Yeah. Once you give up your two-factor code, one of them, right? When it asks and you give it up, it doesn't give them the keys, but it allows them a way to reverse engineer what the master key would be to generate those codes.
Right.
You want to do that 0 times.
0 times, yes, absolutely. Yeah, so you got to be careful still. But you're right. Like two-factor does help you a bunch. If you get wrapped up into one, it probably would give you enough time to go reset your things.
Right, exactly. Because there's time. They have to figure out what the master key would be to start generating the codes on the right times and things like that. So you have time. Once you realize, that wasn't the real website.
That wasn't legit.
Yeah, it's time to go change your password, and it's time to go reset that
reset
authentication.
Your TOTP.
Yep. Definitely.
Yeah, do both of those. I think it'll be interesting to see what solutions get made because of the way websites are created. It pulls assets from all over the place. Normally, that's a normal thing.
Yeah.
But we may see some of these OAuth authentication things have to change so that it's pulling potentially, maybe it'll have to pull assets from all of the same place. And so they're coming from the same domain. And if it's not coming from the same domain or whatnot, or an approved domain, then you'll see like the web page flag that, or, the browser will detect it and whatnot. So I think that'll have to be the mechanism going forward to try to mitigate this as a, I would imagine. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I would suppose that even the DNS folks that are doing the malware blocking and things like that might have a role to play in a situation like this.
Oh yeah, that's like whack-a-mole, right? Like,
it
a new
is.
domain
It
pops up
absolutely
every minute. It seems
Sure.
like, and so you just can't keep up with it. But
yeah,
like I said, if not all, not all the assets are coming from, the S3 bucket that they're supposed to or something, maybe that'll get flagged. I don't know. I mean, there's probably a way to detect that stuff, but somebody will have to come up with it and implement it, and all of that's going to take time, and there'll be a lot of people that get caught up into these things before it happens.
Yeah. So we're telling you, be careful. Pay special attention when you're OAuth logging in and it doesn't immediately log you in. Scrutinize that page. Make sure it looks legit.
All right, Lioh, time for a little feedback.
A little feedback. All right.
All right, a lot of feedback.
All right.
This is good stuff. We love the feedback.
I'm ready. I love it.
So Levsky from YouTube on our Slackware video writes, Slackware is a very good Linux distribution to learn how Linux works. But if you search for work, companies are looking for RHEL, SUSE, Ubuntu. Those are the ones you see in job ads, right? So those are the ones to watch out for. So that's the bad part with Slackware, Gentoo, Arch. And so they become a distribution for the hobby and not necessarily the one for the work. I still think it's a good learning exercise to learn how all those things are built up and, how Ubuntu, SUSE, RHEL are made is the same foundations that you'll get with Slackware, Gentoo, Arch.
Yeah, I think that's one of the cool things about distributions like that is that while you may not use Slackware for work, though you can, Slackware, is still a fairly decent server platform.
It would be.
But because, certainly big Fortune gajillion whatever companies don't necessarily use Slackware in the back end, right? They're going to use Red Hat or Ubuntu or something like that.
Yep.
There's a lot of things to be learned in a situation or in a distribution like Slackware, Gentoo, or Arch. I saw in some of the chats over the past few weeks questioning, well, what do you really learn by deploying or by using Slackware, Gentoo, or Arch? And I don't think the question is always weird, right? Like, I don't think you learn all of Linux by learning or by installing and using Slackware. You answer the questions that are scratching the itch of your mind. Because in Slackware, right, you get an install. It's kind of arduous to get to the first point. And then you have the question like, well, I want to add the software.
Right. This is where the learning begins. Just by the way.
And it's not, and of course, what you're learning is not always directly applicable to making $100,000 a year. This is not what I mean when I say that Slackware, Gentoo, and Arch are great learning distributions. What I mean by that is when you install Slackware, you're presented with unique problems that you have to solve. And you can solve them in a couple of ways. One being you can go find how someone else solved them and do exactly what they did.
Mm-hmm.
That is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with solving a problem, letting someone else solve your problem and using their answer. There's nothing wrong with that in a situation like this. But then there's also digging down and learning what Slackware would have you do in a
Right.
case like this, right? In the case of upgrades, do you use the upgrade PKG and then just define the package? Or do you use Slack upgrade, whatever the command is, and then set your mirrors and then just let it kind of do its own thing and then upgrade Lioh and all of that kind of stuff? Or do you just roll up your sleeves and do it all manually? What do you do in a case like that? So what I mean when I'm saying you're going to learn something in Slackware, it's not applicable to every situation ever for the rest of your life. It's you're learning Slackware. You're learning how, especially in Slackware's case, how things were done back in the day and how I think a lot of people are still used to dealing with Linux. So some of it's historical, some of it is scratching that itch that you have because you decided you wanted to install Slackware in the first place, right? And just getting an overall appreciation for what the heck it is that we do in this whole Linux ecosystem.
I think those are great points, Lioh. I think the other thing is, even if you're using one of those enterprise Linux distributions, there will be a time you will encounter it when there is a piece of software that is not in the regular repos or not in the package. Like, you can't install it with the package manager. You're going to get a tar file that you're going to have to go and uncompress and compile and make for your distribution, because that is what some other commercial entity decided to throw at you as their solution for software.
Yep.
And so you're going to have to go figure out how to make that go into your system, and there may be dependencies that go along with that. Well, your package manager is not going to solve that for you. So unless
and even if it did, their package manager may not provide the exact versioning of the dependencies that you might need.
Yes, you're going to have to learn how to pin those things and make them stick and make them all go together and upgrade together, like, going forward. And that's what Slackware, I find the value, like, that's what that gives you. And oftentimes people talk about, well, Arch breaks. Well, this is what breaks in Arch. Yeah, the way things don't always upgrade together nicely and cleanly, and so you need to know how to downgrade packages and maybe go a different route. It's the reaction that you learn by using these other distributions, I think, that make your experience, carryover experience into the mainstream enterprise ones, and make you a better Linux administrator over there. That's my takeaway on it.
I 100% agree. The whole point is that running one distro is going to teach you everything you need to know about this thing we call Linux. But by using things like Slackware and going through the pain of resolving your own dependencies and using things like Gen 2 and going through the pain of learning the compilation flags that you might need through emerge.
Yeah, that's a biggie.
And going through Arch and figuring out what things you need to cobble together to make a good base working system. Those things together make good working Linux knowledge. You don't have enough. Nobody ever has enough. Nobody has all the answers. But by going out on a limb and playing around with these distros and learning what makes them tick and why they make the decisions they make and what it is that makes these distros good, because they all have good in them.
They do.
Those are the things that are going to carry you further in an enterprise situation where, you're going to be using RHEL. You're going to be using SUSE or Ubuntu or something like that. One of the big boys that someone can pay gobs of money for enterprise support. Of course you are. That's just good policy. But you're going to run into a situation where you're going to think, oh man, I did this in Slackware that one time. Oh, this will be pretty easy. And you're going to turn an all-day endeavor into a 30-minute fix.
Right.
So there's scales and things to all of this. And when I was saying that there was, what do you learn out of these things? This is not to Levsky's comment, but to just other comments that I've seen generally in the community. There's a lot to be learned in a lot of these distros. And if you plan on being enterprise, there's a good chance that if you run these distros and truly kind of understand at least the basics of all of these distros, you're going to be, head and shoulders above everybody else as far as problem solving goes to get stuff going. So, yeah, don't brush them off. They're good stuff. They're really, really, really good stuff. Peter, also from YouTube, and this is on our past episodes, because we've kind of talked about what we're going to do with past episodes, and I think Dan and I finally came to an agreement behind this episode, how we're going to do it. So he said, by the way, are the episodes of Season 1 available? The answer is yes, sort of.
Well, yeah, so we had a YouTube channel, and we mentioned this before, and we migrated to a new YouTube channel so that we could both interact on said YouTube channel.
Yes.
And so now that we're on a new space, none of the Season 1 episodes and some of the Season 2 stuff is not there either. Yeah. So we came to a conclusion, Lioh and I did, during our break time. We're going to run some reruns during the off season here of Linux User Space by uploading various episodes, probably starting with Season 1, shortly after we break.
That's the deal. So one thing I want to make really, really clear about this thing is that I didn't notice it. Dan, you never mentioned it, so I don't know if you noticed it either. But Season 1 was a very different show.
It was.
And it didn't really occur to me, and I wish I could remember the name of the person that brought it up, but they said to me, essentially that Season 1 and Season 2 are, two sides of the same coin. They are very different, though.
I believe it was somebody in Telegram, but I don't remember who.
Yeah, I think in Season 1, we were very much more focused on what it means to run a distro and how that would affect the new user. Yeah. And I think in Season 2, we flipped that focus a little bit to the history, and instead of for the new user, just what it means to run a distro, which is why we were afforded the ability to go and run something like Slackware. Ain't no new user in the whole world gonna just decide to pick up Slackware.
That's not where you start. Although Lioh and I might have started there, but that's not where everybody starts.
That's actually kind of true. Between Mandrake and Slackware, that is where I started. But that was a long time ago. So I think the shift in ideology of what the show is about really afforded us the ability to do things like Arch, and afforded us to do things like Nix and Slackware, where had we stayed with the new user focus, I don't think those distros would have actually come up. Even if they did,
think they would. I don't think they could.
Yeah, I don't know that we could have even spent much time on them, because a new user would not know how to use CFdisk or FDisk to partition a disk to be able to get Nix and Slackware on there, and they certainly wouldn't know what the heck D-bus was to link it with Void, and they certainly wouldn't know how to cobble together a system like Arch. So I think the new journey that we took in Season 2 kind of redefined what the show was about. And I think that's why we were a little more hesitant to put that stuff out there. And just generally, I like where we're going. All this to say, I like where we're going. And
I like where we're going, too.
It's fun where we're going.
But we don't want to forget where we've been. So we will be highlighting that, like I said, in the off-season. So stay tuned to the YouTube channel.
Yep.
You'll be seeing them drop on a regular-ish basis. I don't know how often I'll be able to get to upload them.
Don't nail me to the wall, Dan. Don't do that.
don't pin me to a timeline, please.
Yeah.
But we'll get them there, I promise.
Yeah. The first few will come out pretty regularly because I already have them ready to go. But
and we have the other ones too.
We'll see.
It's just a matter of doling them out, I suppose. And
new logo stuff, re-rendering stuff. That's the big task right now. All the content's there, but we need to. I want to bring them up to a more. Yeah. I want to. There's things I want to do.
That makes total sense to me. Also, Well, as long as Leo's uploading them, we're good. But my upload speeds are absolutely terrible. So
I got you on the upload, man. I got you.
It's like an hour and 10 minutes. It's almost as long as the episode to upload it. So there you go.
Oh boy.
I'm playing it back real time to YouTube.
Yeah. So long story short, yes, season 1 is coming onto the new channel. The leftovers of season 2 are also coming to the new channel. The old channel will eventually die. Don't go looking for it. Don't do that.
That's what we don't want.
We're planning on killing that channel. So if you get like halfway through it and it's like, oh, where'd they go? Well, they'll come back up. New channel. Don't go looking for the old channel. Use the links that we've got now, and we'll have everything ready for you over the break.
All right. Lioh, not Leo.
Not me.
A different Leo, spelled differently. At least we think it's Leo. And sends us an email on proper slacking. And says, thanks for the Slackware episode. For Slack builds online, you want to blacklist the tag in Slack PKG so clean system does not remove it.
And this is something that you ran into, right?
But it actually saved my bacon. So it wasn't necessarily a bad thing, because I think what happened was I had updated something that was in the regular Slack stuff, and I needed to recompile it against, I needed to recompile the Slack build stuff that I had against that.
Yeah.
And so, because I hadn't done that, reinstalling it fixed that problem, obviously, because it rebuilt it. So in my case, it actually fixed my problem. So you want to blacklist that though normally, so that so a clean system doesn't remove those things. Slack SBO PKG has queue support to automatically build all necessary dependencies. It's called SQG. Wow, these names are great.
I know, right? It's hard to type too. I feel the hardness. That's all one hand. That's tough.
Yeah. So you can build the queue per package with SQG-P package name.
That's cool.
For all packages using SQG-A. Yeah.
Nice.
That's kind of cool. That is super handy. That's pretty neat. You also want to check out this Slack PKG hook, which helps you to update initrd and the bootloader. This is something you encountered.
I sure did.
After the kernel update. And so here, there's a command. I'm not going to read that out.
Yeah, we'll have that in the show notes so you can take a look at it.
It's a wget thing to get the shell script, and then you change it to be, executable, and you're off to the races. So I'll have a link to that. Actually, I'll just post that right in the show notes. Alternatively, it can be activated in Slack PKG. So that's pretty nifty. If you understand German or want to improve it, check out the open source Linux course that Lioh has for beginners based on Slackware. And there's a link here, and I will absolutely have that in the show notes. Besides that, most true Slackers use -current as a daily driver. That makes sense. That's pretty much well, it kind of does. I mean, it's kind of on par with something like Arch at that point, right? Because you're pulling in the latest packages as they come down. And it really does mean current. Current means the packages as they almost get released. So it's if you're going to run Slackware, you think oftentimes, well, that's old. No, the releases are old, but current is actually very current.
Yeah, I mean, with 14.2, that lasted for years. Current was still current. They still had current packages. So
right. They tend to freeze it right before release for a little while, and then they release, and then they
back to the races.
Let it roll again. So there you go.
So I will say I did not get rid of Slackware. I know I said I wasn't going to keep it, but I haven't not kept it yet. And someone else was talking to me about current as well. And I think they convinced me that at the very least, I'm going to just roll on current for a little while.
Wow, that's cool.
Just see what happens. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? Oh no, my laptop, the install blew up. Okay.
Whoopsie.
I'll just go install something else. No big deal. But I do want to live on current for a little while and see how that goes. And so Lioh, not me, but him, decided that, if that's where current folks are, or where daily driver Slackware folks are, that's where I want to be. Because, sounds fun. It does sound fun.
Neat. So we will, thank you very much for the feedback. We'll make sure to get your links in the show notes along with your the commands here for the kernel upgrade bits as well. So that's pretty nifty stuff. Thank you very much. All right, another piece of feedback from Patreon. This is CubicleNate on X-Free86 transition. Nate says, I feel like the history of Slackware is the history of Linux itself. He's not all wrong. That's like almost the genesis. It's really one step removed from the beginning.
Pretty much.
So, yeah, there it is. And so that's pretty neat. The whole X-Free86 Xorg transition was so painful on Mandrake. I was salty for a while. I can imagine. I remember the days. And yeah, those transition times were always tough. Not just that transition, but like anything big, major underpinnings, they were all tough to transition through. It felt like
you can kind of make the connection to Systemd or Wayland nowadays.
Yeah, Wayland maybe,
where there's a bunch of just tumultuous things. Stuff doesn't work. Some particular hardware situations are just not viable, and that's exactly what happened back then.
I feel like now, though, there's enough overlap between those transition times where you can still use the old thing and it's just fine. Like, we're still on Xorg and everybody's happy. And
there are distros dedicated to making sure that...
Like, it wasn't like it didn't exist one day or, it wasn't going to be available next week kind of thing. You have enough overlap time now.
And now there are so many distros that target so many different things that even if moving to Wayland is just not your bag, well, there's a bunch of other distros that you can jump on that will save you from the transition.
Yeah, or desktop environments, because not all desktop environments support it either. So there you go.
And there were just way fewer choices back in the day.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
So much.
Lots of distros. Is it a good or a bad thing? Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, you had like CDE and that was it, right?
Yeah, right. That's it.
Window Maker and CDE. There you go.
Because you're not going to download a whole Linux distro in a day on your 56K modem, man. Good luck.
So Nate finishes it out, says, that was when I was young and obstinate that got irritated. So that was good. Thank you, Nate. Thank you for the feedback.
Next up is Larry Murphy via email. Came in through our website. And this is on, a little bit on KDE Plasma, and then we talk about a few other things. So anyway, he says, hi, Dan and Lioh. I've heard Michael from Destination Linux and others talk much about Plasma DE that I decided to try it out. I used KDE back in the day. Less than half of the goodies worked, but what did was really nice. I downloaded every distro I could find with Plasma. I also wanted to try out Manjaro. Ooh. I never like Arch distros, but that was quite a while ago, and Linux has changed so much. I was really pleased with Manjaro and KDE, but I had one problem. My scanner didn't work. I went to Epson's site and checked the driver download page. What I found was that they offered deb and RPM packages only. Don't they all, right? Mm-hmm. I figured that I could use my XP install in VirtualBox. Only problem was that it didn't recognize my USBs. And I think he's talking about USB pass-throughs.
Yeah.
Then I found out how to get my USBs working.
All right.
I decided I'd use any distro with either debs or RPM. I found that there was something about every one that I didn't like or didn't work. I was about to give it up for a while until I noticed I never tried MX Linux. Oh, it worked great. The Plasma wasn't as polished as Manjaro, but everything worked great, and there were still so many options in Plasma, it'll take me years to get it all digested. I feel like, by the way, just taking that for a sec, that's the problem that everybody has, but I feel like that's the best take on it. Like, Plasma's got 6 million different toggles and switches. I hate it. No, this is the right take. It's got so many options, but I'm going to digest it. It might take a while, but I'm going to digest it.
Yeah,
I like that take.
I think it's a good approach.
Most.
Yeah, I think it's a good approach.
Right? Yeah. Anyway, so he goes on. I heard Ryan that in MX in one of the earlier DNL shows, and he seemed to like a lot about it. If I like a distro well enough in VirtualBox, I burn a live CD, and if I still like it installed, as I said, MX works great, but I really liked Manjaro better, so I started researching about Manjaro because I figured there must be a way to get drivers for my scanner in Arch, and there was. I reinstalled Manjaro and found I needed to install more packages for VirtualBox, and that did the trick. I imagine that's what fixed up the USB pass-through and all the other stuff too. So he goes on. Now I have 3 distros that I like very much. He's about to make me very happy. Hang on. I've been using all 3. They do all what I want, but there are some differences. Manjaro and MX handle audio much better than Mint. Mint works well, but Manjaro and MX does it even better. There are a few other things that I like as well, but this email is long enough now. Diversity is one of Linux's strong suits, so I like the different viewpoints from all the other different podcasts. So, right, in podcasts, there's a ton of them. We all say different things. We all agree on different things. And in distros, as we were mentioning before, the diversity of all these distros is what makes Linux great, what allows you to do these weird, funky things on the outskirts of Linux land, and then eventually they make it all into mainline and onto the big distros and everything else. So, Larry, you've got a lot of good takes here so far. He starts to close out and says, I heard about your show while listening to Linux Saloon.
Nice.
Thanks for a very interesting and helpful show. Mint was the first distro that worked best for me, and I will always keep an install. He sent a second email, but I just kind of threw it in here and said, I listened to Season 2, Episode 16, and heard about scrolling on Chrome.
Sorry.
I'm not a fan.
It's sad.
He heard about scrolling on Chrome-based browsers, so I had to try it. You are absolutely right. Firefox, and after hearing about Ghostery, I installed it. Ghostery works fine since Ghostery is evidently built using Firefox. Thanks for the info and all the hard work on the show. P.S. Lioh, I followed you from Mintcast.
All right, Lioh.
Yeah. So the scrolling thing, I still can't get past it. And I've noticed in GNOME, scrolling is too slow using a mouse. Scrolling is too fast using a trackpad. There is no happy medium. I don't know how to fix it. There is no toggle. Dan, what do I do?
I don't know if I've noticed that, honestly.
I don't know.
You can't adjust those things separately, probably.
I'm sure I'm going to have to G-edit or G-settings.
Yeah, you'll need some extension or something. Yeah, tweaks. That's what you need. That sounds good.
Yeah. So, Larry, keep plugging away at Plasma. It's fantastic. I love your take on that. It's not too many functions. It's that it takes a little while to understand what they do and whether or not you care about them. That, I think, is the right take in anything that you encounter that is foreign to you. And I think it's also, on the total flip side, the right take about GNOME too.
I will say you and Joe probably opened my mind to that. Although I still have some gripes about it.
I mean, let it be what it's trying to be for you. I get that there are not 99,999 different toggles in GNOME that you can flip on and off and everything else. But, and if it's not for you, it's not for you. But let GNOME be GNOME. And if you fall in love with it, or if you absolutely hate it, doesn't matter. Because that's the strength of Linux, is the diversity, is the ability to say, here's what we're doing. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. And you have GNOME on one end being very tight-knit about the things that they allow you to do in the desktop environment. And then you have the exact opposite of that in Plasma, where there's a gajillion and one toggles to do everything that you want to do. And then you have everything else in between, LXQT, XFCE, Budgie, Mate,
Deepin,
Cinnamon,
Chillin,
all of these UK UI, yeah. So absolutely. So anyway, thank you, Larry. I love your take on Plasma. Keep being Larry, because that's the best Larry to be.
All right. So next up is Eric on Matrix. talks about framework laptop, and Lioh, you had good conversation with Eric on Matrix about this because you've got yours now. He says,
"Oh yeah,
I'll be following your progress with that laptop, Lioh. It sounds like it's a good idea, but I'm wondering if it's really worth the extra money for me. I don't tend to upgrade my laptops after the initial setup. I guess the fact that there is any laptop that doesn't have everything soldered onto the board is a good thing. I always used to order a laptop with the least amount of memory and hard drive space, and then buy my own parts to update them, which was usually cheaper than paying the manufacturer. I guess the bottom line is that this modular is appealing, but only if I thought I'd actually take advantage of it.
yeah."
It may be a little more expensive, but I don't think it's that much more expensive than a lot of the other mainstream laptops, really. So, when you look on their website, it's a few $100 difference, but what you're getting is a lot of value add, I feel like. So a few $100 is not necessarily a deal breaker, I don't think.
No, I think the base model is like $800, and I mean you're hard pressed to find any ThinkPad new off the line for less than much of that.
Same with Dell and HP and all the other ones, right? If you're going to buy from one of the big manufacturers, you're looking at a laptop. You're looking at the $800-900 range, probably.
Yeah, and in Matrix, I have Chad, who's backing me up on this framework because he's got one as well. He's got the i5 model, and fortunately for him, he got the DIY. He bought the DIY kit. It all comes in pieces, and you put it all together, which is. I wish I had that, but
yeah, I would mind going through that experience. That sounds fun.
Yeah, mine was secondhand, so it was already pre-built and everything by the person that originally bought it. But I count myself lucky because I spent a whole lot less than what it would have cost buying it new, and there wasn't much of anything wrong with the laptop when I got it, other than the trackpad itself, which I'll fix one of these days. It's like $40, but taps and everything work. When you click it, like you got to push just a little extra hard, and I don't mean like a lot hard, just like barely a little extra after the click, and it works. So it's not a big deal. I'm not in a rush to fix it. But it'd be $40. So
right, and you can fix it yourself. So that's pretty slick.
I think what I'm going to do is during the break, the season break, is I'm going to buy the touchpad. I'm going to buy the 256 gig external plug-in thing that it actually goes into the laptop.
Yeah, it goes in the slot, like where you'd have a display port or something like that. If you were using an external monitor, you could just take that out and put the 256 gig drive in, and away you go.
That's what gets me on it. So I'm going to buy a couple of pieces over the break, and we'll see what happens with that. That's where probably most of my Linux is going to go and all of that. Testing Linux is going to go.
So another point I'll make though too is so it's not a Linux only laptop like some of the other ones are.
Yeah.
But it is a very Linux friendly laptop. So they do have Linux in mind. And so I think that's another takeaway for all of us, at least listening and producing this podcast. Linux is an important thing to support, even if it's not necessarily directly.
Well, they have the stamp of approval of both Ubuntu and Fedora. So it's not a Linux first laptop, but it is a Linux laptop because these guys are working with Upstream to make sure things that work on this laptop work natively.
Correct.
And to put a fine point on that, they're working directly with the folks behind FWEP-D to allow you to upgrade the BIOS, to upgrade the SSDs, to upgrade all of the junk inside of this laptop in a Linux native fashion. So, it's not a System 76 laptop. It's not a Tuxedo Computers laptop. It's not a Juno whatever, where it's Linux first.
Star Labs, you name it, right? Yeah.
It is a laptop that supports everything.
I know.
And
that's the thing.
Natively. So, yeah, that was enough. The fact that I can upgrade this thing to the cows come home. Until they decide that this chassis is no longer viable, I'll be chucking new parts and upgrading this thing until just it won't take them anymore.
Which is great.
And I'm happy about that because that means that there's less waste. There's no need for me to buy a whole new laptop, just parts for this laptop. It's all aluminum, man. It feels very nice in the hand. The trackpad is nice and glass. I mean, there are just a gajillion things about this laptop that I absolutely love, and it works on Linux.
That's cool.
Natively, out of the box. That's important.
Agreed.
All right, so last thing is, last bit of feedback is Aris from Discord on distro benefits. So, quick question. We've kind of answered this a few different angles throughout the episode so far, so we'll put a quick point on this question. He says, how would you compare your experience from building from source on Void, Arch, and Slackware? What are the benefits or disadvantage of each?
Okay, so I'll say, like, all right, so if we're going to build a application package, say from source on Void, say something not in the repos, I think Void, Arch, or Slackware, which one's the better experience for you? I think, for me, the best experience was with Void. And hear me out. I think XBPS source, the build system that they provide for that, is super slick. It's clean. It doesn't clutter up your system. It lets you build and maintain going forward too, not just build it once, but keep it built as far as upgrades going forward, which is super nice. I love the way they have that set up. Arch, a lot of people, and I said this in our Arch episode, you're holding it wrong, if you will. Like when you're pulling in something from the AUR, you're not like like everybody uses an AUR helper, and that's fine, I guess. But it's not, make package, and that's the tool that you would use to build something from source. And you should examine said package, even if you don't understand everything in it. At least you can kind of verify some of the links and make sure nothing slid in there, hopefully unintentionally, and whatnot. So it's not as clean. It's not as easy, I don't think, as like the Void stuff. It still works. It works pretty well. And then Slackware, well, yeah, you're just on your own with that one. You're managing all of the dependencies and versioning and all of that stuff, and probably going to pull it from someplace like Slack builds or maybe you're building it from yourself. You're just pulling in tar files and building each one of those Unreal by yourself, and you could do that. That's in the cards. You can definitely get it done that way.
You can torture yourself if you'd like.
but that sounds not as fun. So there's my hot take on it, Lioh.
Well, I think generally I agree with pretty much everything you say. And I think maybe I don't know where the question is coming from, but I kind of assume that building from source really is talking more about XBPS source, Yay in Arch, and Slack builds in Slackware, rather than going to the source quite literally to GitHub, downloading the TarGZ package,
nobody wants
building
to do
it. Right, nobody wants to. But what's funny about that, I think, is that Slackware has the best tools to do it. If you
were going to do it that way, that probably would be not a bad way to go.
Right. So in some senses, I think Slackware, because of their insistence on kind of doing things the old way, Slackware has the best tools out of the box. That's the important bit. Out of the box. All of them can do all the things. But out of the box, Slackware probably has the best from source building tools ready to go day one. So, in a sense, I feel like Slackware is probably the easiest way to do it. However, to what I think the question was about, which is more Slack builds, AUR, XBPS source, I think Arch. Mostly because Yay is so darn easy to use.
It does make it easy. The helper tool, I guess it is pretty slick. Not gonna lie.
It is, and it is. And I mean, because Yay can take over for Pac-Man, like you could just use Yay for everything once you get it set up.
Sure.
I think, the experience is probably the best in Arch, because I think there are just more people on Arch to slowly make that experience better and better and better and better. But yeah, I mean, if we're going straight up, you got uncompiled code and you need to get it on your system now, Slackware probably is the best experience without doing anything day one. So yeah, I mean,
all right.
That's a very
guess I just like the
question.
tidiness of Void and the way they handle it. So
You're right.
That elegance is what strikes me.
There is a simplicity to Void, and not saying in any way that Void is the worst of the bunch. Just that I think I favor the hard way in Slackware and the easy way in Arch.
Cool. Well, there you go. You can't do it wrong. It's Linux.
You can't. I think all of the ways are right. I just kind of like Slackware and I like Arch. Housekeeping. Time to turn your pillows.
The Linux and open source community has some fantastic resources, and we want to make sure to highlight that. In our showcase for this episode, we want to draw your attention to the Linux Out Loud podcast.
Ooh.
This is from the Destination Linux network. Recently rebranded, right? So this was DLN Extend previously, and now is Linux Out Loud. Wendy, Matt, and Nate all bring great conversations every week, and some jocularity too. So they keep you on your toes. I love the good ribbing that goes on between Matt and Nate.
Yeah.
That's always super fun. And Wendy's practical knowledge and what she brings from photography and Linux combination together, and the experiences that her kids are having with Linux gaming and mm-hmm. other things that she's doing with her co-op schooling and stuff is pretty great. So,
yep.
They're a great trio, and I love listening every week. So they're on my list.
Definitely, 100%. I really enjoy every time I watch them on YouTube. And every time they come through, it's just I put them on in the background, and there's always something new. There's always something to learn in a podcast like that. So, worth a check out. Check it out. So that's Linux Out Loud podcast from the Destination Linux Network. We'll make sure to have a link in the show notes, dlnextend.com. Feel free to send your emails to contact@linuxuserspace.show. We'll talk about feedback when we get back on Season 3. We love our patrons. And speaking of our patrons, we're going to make sure to pause your Patreon during our off season for a couple of months here. When we're not releasing episodes, we'll not be charging you. That's how that's going to go. But we do appreciate your support, and we thank everyone for your contributions. This would not be possible without everything that you bring. And you can head on over to patreon.com/LinuxUserspace to join the other patrons. Oh, yeah.
You can join our Matrix room. That's not going anywhere. linuxuserspace.show/matrix. And we also have our Telegram group, linuxuserspace.show/telegram. And if those aren't enough chat platforms, we've got our Discord server, linuxuserspace.show/discord. You can follow us on Twitter @LinuxUserspace to get all the latest announcements for the show and for highlights for things that impact your user space. In addition to that, we've also caught up with the times, and we've got the open source Fediverse, and we've joined Mastodon. You can follow us at LinuxUserspace @mastodon.social. You can watch our faces on YouTube, linuxuserspace.show/YouTube. Our subreddit, linuxuserspace.show/Reddit, is where you'll find all kinds of news coming down through, and you can join in on the conversation over there and talk about any of those things. Lastly, don't forget to rate this podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcast application, and like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. You can always get more information on our website, linuxuserspace.show.
Last focus of the season.
I'd better focus up. Get focused for a little while.
Yeah. There wasn't enough tinfoil hat earlier in the show, right? I mean, we spent a little while talking about...
this is a good one to support the tinfoil hat.
Yes. So because we didn't have enough of it before, we're going to visit one more time. So, Roman Vigi is the author of Metadata Cleaner. This is one of the apps.gnome.com thing.
The GNOME apps. Yep.
GNOME apps. Yeah, that thing.
Apps.gnome.org, I believe, is where it's at.
That's the one. There you go.
Yep.
This is one of those apps, and it's fantastic. Especially for the tinfoil hat persuasion of us all.
I like this. I didn't know about it until you mentioned it.
Ooh.
You got me excited, Lioh.
It's so good. Okay, all right. So it's one of those super simple apps, right? Like GNOME apps are super simple apps. They do one thing, like sound recorder. It just records sound, and metadata cleaner just cleans metadata. That's what it does. It's no nonsense, no frills. It does the metadata cleaning, and it does it well. So, what is it? Metadata cleaner. It does what it says on the tin. Why would you want it? Because you want to clean metadata. I mean,
of course you do.
You know, I feel like this app focus is going to be kind of short because it is what it says it is, and it does what it says it does.
Well, I mean, Lioh, what is metadata?
There you go. Okay, metadata is data about the data that is added to the data itself. Okay, visualize this with me, if you will. You pull out your phone because you see something funny, and you decide to take a video of that thing. That video is 30 seconds. And you press record, and you press stop, and you watch the video a couple times later on, you laugh at it, and you send it through some chat platform or whatever. But what you don't realize that you're sending a lot of times, because not all chat platforms and social media platforms and everybody, they don't scrub the metadata before they post it to their website. Some do, some don't.
Of course not. They utilize that for other purposes.
Of course. So the metadata, what is this metadata? The metadata is information. It is the date you took that video, the GPS location
there's a biggie.
of that video. That's another big one. The time that you took that
also kind
video.
Of big.
And tons of other personally identifying information like the phone you use, not just the platform, the version of Android or iOS, the model number of your phone. And so if you're going to say that you have a date, a location, a time, the make and model of your phone, the version of software, you know quite a lot.
That's a pretty good profile.
And you didn't even watch the video yet, Dan.
I know.
This is just
you
information.
You probably get it from the video anyway. I mean, maybe.
Maybe. You don't see the person recording
but you don't know.
The video's face necessarily, right?
Right,
but
that's true.
You could very easily figure out who recorded the video, even if they said 0 words throughout the entire video itself.
That's a bit scary.
Right? I mean, you cross-reference that with some Twitter post they made about being at a bar somewhere, and you can figure out exactly who that is, when that is, where that is, and why that is. So just for security's sake, before you go post that media somewhere, run it through the app. That is the entire purpose of the app. If what you're trying to put on the internet is just the video, well, then do that. Use Metadata Cleaner to strip out all that auxiliary information, all of that personally identifying information, and then post it. Because, yes, some websites do scrub that information before they allow anybody else to see it. But can you be sure that those websites don't use that information themselves to tie?
If you don't send it, that's when you can be sure.
Exactly. So let the cleaner do its job. Scrub that stuff first, then upload it. And if you're anything like me wondering what happens with that data one time or another, then you can be sure that they're not going to do anything nefarious because they didn't get the information in the first place. They are using and showing exactly what you gave them,
Right.
because you gave them exactly only the video. So, I guess real quick before we close out this segment, what were your favorite apps of the season?
So favorite apps that I picked for things, I picked Fresh RSS.
Oh yeah.
Kid3 and Quick Emu.
Okay.
And so I picked those mostly because I use those every day. Every day. I'm like tagging an episode, or spinning up a VM to test the Ubuntu, or I'm looking at all my news feed in Fresh RSS. That's like where I've totally moved over there. And like right before the episode that we talked about Fresh RSS, I moved over and I went whole hog, and I love every minute of it because it is way better than all the other things I've tried.
I'm so glad you like it, because I've been talking about Fresh RSS to you forever. And I was so afraid that when you swapped over, that after about a month you would just throw it away.
Nope.
So I guess on my end, in no particular order, and because they are ones I use every single day, Nextcloud. I mean, all of the stuff for the show has to go somewhere, and that somewhere is Nextcloud, because if I'm home, obviously Nextcloud's here, but if I'm not, then I can VPN quickly and just take care of it. I'm in, and I'm able to deal with anything in Nextcloud. And by the way, Nextcloud has a pretty decent music player.
It does. Yep.
I was caught off guard a little bit, and it works fantastic on the phone. So if whatever if I have just like junk in Nextcloud that I've just not added to Plex, or taken the time, it's good. I've been surprised how good it is. I mean, obviously you might need a little bit of bandwidth on your phone, so don't be in like a no service kind of area, but it's been surprisingly good how well that actually works. And Fresh RSS. So I mean, we're going to cross the streams on that one.
Yeah.
Fresh RSS it's how these topic shows are made. Except this one. I mean, you guys made this one, but
yeah, exactly.
We'll get there. But yeah, Fresh RSS. It's sometimes it does feel like drinking from the fire hose. It sounds like I'm probably going to be. It's even going to be worse now if I add.
I've given you some
of
ideas.
These things. But it's good. I mean,
it is.
I love how I get my news now. And it doesn't, negate the sources. So it's not some like aggregator, not calling anybody out, but there are aggregators out there that kind of blind you to where the information really came from.
Yes.
And Fresh RSS doesn't do that, because you get it straight from whatever source it is that you set up.
Yeah.
So it's fantastic. I like that. And the other thing is Firefox multi-account containers. Guys, have you ever...
That makes a lot of sense.
If you ever had to do multiple accounts of multiple things in the same service, Twitter, I do Linux user space, I do my own, I do terminal tricks, and I help out with the Mintcast.
And so that's a lot. That's enough right there.
That's a lot, man.
That's a good enough reason.
Yeah, and swapping, adding them all to one particular instance is not. It's fine. It's not enough. So it's nice to be able to keep that all separate, so that when you go to Google, Google's not like, hey, which of the 80,000 accounts do you want to log into? No, I just open the right container, go to Google, and it's already all automatically logged in and ready to go. So the Firefox multi-account containers has saved my bacon, has kept me sane going from one thing to the other. Everything is color-coded. I think that's the real benefit of it, is on top of the tabs, each tab from a container, like my Linux user space container is orange.
It makes sense.
Right? I mean, my personal container is purple, Mintcast is green, again, obviously, and Terminal Tricks is blue. So at a glance, I can easily see what I've got open, if I want to do something, what I need to open, and the containers really make that super easy to do. So That, I think, is probably, that's the list, man. Nextcloud, every day. Fresh RSS, every day. And, well, okay, maybe I sleep for a day. But Firefox multi-account containers, absolutely every day. Because while I might not post stuff every day, I do go scroll through it and see what's going on. I guess I probably should post more, right? It's great for the SEO and all
yes,
jazz and whatever. If you haven't noticed, it's not my favorite thing to do.
Well, obviously, if you haven't noticed, it's not my favorite thing to do either.
Hey, but I guess it's kind of the thing you got to do when you do stuff like this. So there's a little bit out there.
Yeah, fair enough. So those were great. I really we've covered some great things over the whole season. Had a lot of fun with it. Great distros, great applications.
I still use Apostrophe. I still use TLDR.
Yep, I use all those too.
System Monitoring Center is still beautiful.
Yeah, man, is that nice.
Yep, Style Pack still helps. QuickEmu, seriously, how is he going to run a Mac VM on your Linux desktop? Seriously. GNOME Sound Recorder and Kwave are great backups.
Yep.
For Audacity. Geary is still pretty as far as emails go. Krita still does a lot of our heavy lifting as far as logos and things like that goes. Privacy Badger still keeping you safe. Time Shift still keeping you safe, I guess. Keeping your backups safe, right?
Yep.
GNOME Authenticator. By the way, Dan, do you still use GNOME Authenticator? Is it still on your phone?
I don't. No, I have.
I had to put you on the spot just to check.
I do not. I do have the Keysmith.
Oh, you went with the other one.
Yeah. We use we tested both, right, at the same episode.
That was a double header.
Yeah, no, that I'm using the KDE version of that. So
whatever. Smart. Okay,
they're both good. Like you do need TOTP stuff, and you gotta have something to manage that. Your multi-factor's the way to go.
Absolutely. And you know what we didn't mention was SyncThing, but we definitely use that one every episode.
Yeah,
that's how we've been getting files across. So runner up would be Style Pack. Runner up would easily be LSD for me. The last episode
that is just so fun
because it's so the amount of times I run LS is too many. And making it pretty is just nice.
Yeah,
so,
put some icons next to that. Thanks.
100%. Privacy Badger, good stuff. Keep you safe on the web. Yeah, so not a single one of those apps has fallen off. I'd still love all of them.
No, I still use them all too. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What a recap. What a recap of Season 2. Next time. Well, there's kind of a next time, but not next time. Right. Yeah, we'll lay a next time in a few months next time. After the season break next time, we start up a new season. We start Season 3. We roll the clock back.
Lioh, we're big time now. We've got through the sophomore season.
Dude, so that's the thing about this is I talked about it at the top of the show. Season 1 really did feel like a freshman album.
Yep.
Like it felt like there were things that we could improve. Not that there aren't now, just that there are things that we could improve on, and we kind of switched directions a little bit for Season 2. But I really think in Season 2, we hit our stride. We found what we really wanted to do with the show, and I think we really started to do it.
I agree.
And so Season 3, what we will see in a few months, what you as a listener, as a participant, as a part of the community will experience with us is just a refinement of what Season 2 was. And hopefully you'll get more enjoyment out of it, more listening time out of it, more everything out of it in Season 3. So that's what I'm looking forward to. But more than that, I'm looking forward to a break.
Yeah, maybe like we alluded to this. We love the show. We love you guys. Yeah. We love diving into all these things. But yeah, man, I wouldn't mind a little break.
We're gonna take a little break. So some things to look forward to, though. Some things to maybe dream about between now and episode 1. We're gonna focus on some new things that we found, or that we came across, or that we acquired. I got my Framework laptop. I'm gonna really run it through its paces and over the next 3 months. Dan, you got a little something coming to you, hopefully.
I got something coming. I haven't got my email yet, but I keep waiting and keep watching for it. I'm waiting for my Steam Deck. I'm in the Q2 crowd, so supposedly the start of April, we should be seeing emails come out for that group, and I should have it before season 3 begins. So hopefully I'll have a little time to play around with it. I mean, I've been trying not to. I mean, I've been watching, but I've been trying not to watch all of the other people playing theirs online, because that just makes me sad I don't have mine. But I see a lot of great things, and a lot of great things can be done with it. And the games that are being played on it are pretty fantastic too. So,
well, I think on the bright side of all of this is that I'm tired of it.
You're tired of it?
I don't know about you, but if you go to social media right now and look at anything Linux, everything is just Steam Deck. Everything. Absolutely everything. Nobody's talking about anything else. Like GNOME 42, oh yeah, great, but what about that Steam Deck? Oh, Ubuntu 2204, oh, that's great, but what about that Steam Deck? Like, I don't know about you, man, but I have been Steam Decked out. I am done with it. I am fine if I never hear another thing in the next 3 months about Steam Deck. What I'm waiting for is Dan's take on Steam Deck, because it'll all be fresh again. I won't be burnt out on Steam. I am burnt out right now on Steam Deck, so I'm excited to take a break.
I'm not really burned out. I'm just kind of excited about it still, and I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting.
Maybe I'm just salty I don't have one, and I'm not on the list.
Well, I'm sorry for that. So, if we get together sometime, Leo, I'll make sure you get to try mine. How's that sound?
And until then, I'll cry in my framework tears.
Okay, well, that works too, because I don't have one of those, so there you go.
And then also we got a Pine phone. So I finally did get myself a prepaid SIM that I can chuck into the Pine phone and actually do phone calls and actually do web surfing and actually do updating and everything else on the phone itself without having to go onto Wi-Fi, because what is a phone if you can't use it as a phone? That's kind of the point. So that is something also to look forward to as well.
Yeah, so I'd be looking forward to hearing about your experience there.
Yeah, and this is not the Pine Phone Pro. Don't get me wrong. It's going to be slow. It's going to be slow compared to the Pine Phone Pro. But again, I mean, I'm interested. I want to see how it works.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I know. Sure, I use my phone a lot, but I don't use my phone a lot as a phone. So, I mean,
yeah, I say the whole thing about the phone. Yeah, I say that whole thing about the phone, but then I also don't make a lot of phone calls either. So,
Yep. So, I mean, yeah, so it's good. That'll be a good experience. I can't wait to hear your take on it, honestly.
The last thing that we'll say in this little tiny, hopefully small segment is I think we're going to go ahead and pick a distro.
Yeah, it's going to be a while before we get to it, but I think we're going to announce it here because it's a big distro.
Yeah, so in season 1, we bit off more than we could chew. I think those distros didn't get enough time to simmer. We didn't have enough time to spend on them. I think in season 2, we figured out a month is probably about good to get enough of the distro to give a good critique on it and really dive into the history and figure out what's going on with that. But I think in season 3, we might have figured out that doing distros on the kind of on the even cadence, right? So in season 1, we did 1, 2, 3, and then 5, 7, all the odd number episodes. Right. And then in season 2, we did 2 topic episodes back to back. Did season episode 3, 5, 7, 8, right?
Yep.
But I think we've decided we wanted to do 10 distros a season,
or at least try to get it in there. Yeah.
Right. And I think the best way to do that is to do that on the even numbered episodes. And the only way to do that is to give it the whole month and just announce it now.
Yeah, so we're going to give it like 3 months.
Yeah, essentially. This first one's going to get about 3 months, but we're not going to do this particular distro any differently than we would do any other distro. It's just that this distro is releasing during our time off. And we want that to be the first distro that we dive into in season 3.
Yep.
And we've avoided it on purpose.
We have.
For a long time.
We don't want to get labeled.
Well, yeah, right? I mean, everybody goes for that one. Everybody does that one first because it's the most popular and all that kind of stuff. But it took us, we went through 20 distros. Listen to me.
Yeah.
We did 20 distros before we touched a flavor, before we did anything. So
we
the
did some derivatives, but like not quite the same, right?
Right. So for our 21st distro, episode 2 of season 3, we're going to do Ubuntu 22.04.
Yep.
Episode 1 is going to be topic. Our next episode will be a topic-based episode as we warm up. And then episode 2 and every other even episode will be a distro episode.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening and for your support. We truly appreciate it. We close out this season. Look forward to the next one. So where can we find you in the off season, Lioh?
You can find me at Lioh Chavez on Twitter and all the places, right? Telegram, Discord, Matrix, blah, blah, blah. Go to linuxuserspace.show. Look at all those links up on top. Find me in all of those places.
And the same here. You can find me at KC2BEZ on Twitter, at KC2BEZ at mastodon.technology, and all of the other Telegram, probably everything that exists on all of those links. You can find me.
linuxuserspace.show.
And
click on one of the links. You'll find
it. If you ever doubted, I do read all of the messages in the chat. So
if there's one constant of this world, it is that Dan reads everything.
Join us in a few little whiles when we return to the Linux user space. It almost makes me not want to quit.
I know, but absence makes the heart grow fonder.
I hope, and I need a break.
Yeah, well, that's the main part. That's the main thing is, I need a break, man. That history is hard.
I know you do. We both do.
Yes. The history is hard, and this is hard, and everything is hard. So I love doing it. It just saps your energy. This is the hobby. So yeah, and we're not tested. But
I mean, like, not just tested, documented. All the things, right?
Yep.
We got some time.
Okay. Oh, true. No, you're true. Yeah, that's right. That's right. I mean, we really do have 3 months to do it, so it's not that big a deal.
We're gonna wait till the last week.
You know me so well.
You know me so well.
Yeah. We have a history of procrastination, Dan. What are we gonna do about this?
We get it done though.